I'll hit record. Hello, and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. We're both in Melbourne today, which is exciting. So I can say, I should have said good morning, 'cause it's still 5 minutes till good afternoon. So thrilled to have Utkarsh Narang on the show here today. Welcome to the show, Utkarsh.
Looking forward to the conversation, B. And we could probably have done this in person also, but
Oh,
yeah,
we could
digital
have.
works. Digital works really well as well.
Yeah, I think you're a bit more progressed with your podcast than me. I only started mine back in February, but watch out, see what it looks like in 12 months' times.
Absolutely. I started in December, and I'm already planning that next year is going to be in person. So let's see how that goes.
Oh, I love it. Oh, maybe we can do that. I'm also I keep noticing that picture on the back of your behind you, ignite your spark. I absolutely love it.
Yeah,
Which takes me to you are the founder of IgnitedNeurons. And so that whole Ignite piece, which you founded back in 2020. And it's a company that is essentially working with leaders, organizations, and teams to explore their human potential, their self-awareness, and the transformative power of inner work and the impact that creates in the outer world, the outwork, which is what I'm all about as well. I absolutely love it. But you've had other careers previous, which has almost set you up for coming to your business now in terms of you were an entrepreneur back in when you were living in Delhi as a physiotherapist.
that is correct.
You had three clinics, which is incredible. But then you had this epiphany by the sounds of things where you were like, there's something more to do to do in the world.
Yeah.
And so then you decided to go from being an entrepreneur, you jumped into the corporate world. And from what you can tell that story, but in terms of you were in the corporate world for 8 years, you grew a business or scaled a business to 15 million. And then you come to COVID, you get to 2020 and you're like, okay, time to pivot again.
Yeah.
So that's for me. You've had a form, and then you've become formless. You've reimagined and recreated and reshaped, and then here you are, and you're 5 years young in your business, and you blend science and what I like to call soul and storytelling in service for better humans in a better world. Quite an incredible story. Tell us about your journey.
I don't know about the story, but you've shared the story in so many beautiful words that it sounds really amazing. But here's, this idea of ignite your spark. What I really feel, B, is that this human life is such a gift. And if we are not making choices that are more intentional, if you're not making choices that are more driven to who we are, then it's a complete waste. And I think human life is a precious gift, and we all should ignite our spark. And that's what I've been able to do over the last 40 years of being on this planet. So yes, I was a physiotherapist. Both my parents were doctors. And so in India, if you're a kid growing up in the 90s, then you're told that if your parents are doctors, then you got to be doctor as well. They never forced me to do that, but I wanted to kind of pursue that profession because that's all I saw in my home. So yeah, I had three clinics. Being a physiotherapist, having a fitness center, being an entrepreneur, where I had the freedom to be and choose however I wanted to be, was really empowering. But then it was about 2012 when I started to realize, like, I'm just a frog in a well, because I wanted to have impact on the planet. I wanted to have touch more lives, but being a physiotherapist had its limitations. And that's when I started to kind of see what else is possible with life, which is when I met the professor at Columbia Business School in New York, started to work with him. I was the third employee at that time in 2013, spent about 8 years with them, built the business up from the ground up. And then came COVID, which is where there was more time created, right? And you and I were just talking about this before we started to record, that the pauses in life, and when they're intentional or forced by COVID, are really helpful in helping you define as to where could you go next. And I think that's when I started to really reflect, like, what are some skills that I have? What are some things that the world I can offer to the world? And then also realized that there was a coach who played a pivotal role in my journey. And so I thought, let me study, what does it mean to become a coach. And so that's where the journey started. And the name Ignited Neurons is again kind of synonym with that thought that let's ignite these neurons, because our brain is allowing us to do beautiful things, and yeah, make choices that are based on awareness. So that's the journey. And now I'm in Melbourne, and I love the coffee. Moved here 2 years ago.
Oh,
uh,
only 2 years ago.
Only 2 years ago, yeah.
But
And
but
people,
you've
people
never lived in Melbourne pre that?
No, no. So you were in Delhi after I left my job. So then 2023 is when my wife got a job here, and we were like, let's pack our bags and see what's possible because people kept telling us there are 4 seasons in a day. The coffee is amazing, and I was like, how can it be so amazing that you keep talking about the coffee? But now I realized 2 years later, I'm addicted to Melbourne's coffee.
Yeah, so am I. Like, I absolutely love it. Like, and it is
Amazing.
4 seasons in one day. Like yesterday, for example, it was sunny, then it was raining, or then it
Yeah,
was overcast, and then today
yeah,
it's sunny 1 minute, it's raining the
exactly.
next.
Yeah,
It's all that. It's that whole surprise and delight. I
it is.
absolutely love your story, and it's interesting. Like, if I even think about you being a physiotherapist, the experiences I've had with physios has always been when I've had a life moment where it's been a physical injury, but then I've got together with my physiotherapist to help me recover physically, but it's ended up being a mental recovery with them as well. So it feels like to me, your coaching journey started almost way back then in terms of because you would have had probably a lot of clients that were coming in with a physical injury, but then you're digging into what's actually going on in here from a mindset perspective
Yeah,
to help
love
them
it.
recover? Like, is that something that you started to pick up on in terms of, and then hence why you were like, there's more to this and there's more to, bringing better humans and more impact to the world?
Yeah. I think as you're saying that, I have reflected upon this often, but I've never had someone come to me and share this. I think it makes absolute sense because the level of empathy that you need as a physiotherapist, and I love the profession. There was nothing wrong with the profession. It was just that my growth journey lied somewhere else. But yeah, the empathy that you need. I clearly remember I used to have these patients, participants, whatever we want to call them, come to me who were like maybe in their 70s and 80s. Sometimes there was a young person who was injured or had an injury which led to paralysis to the whole body. And it was more about helping them build through and go through that mindset shift that whatever has happened has happened. Now, what parts of you can become better? How can you now still adapt to what has been offered to you, what cards have been offered to you, and play your best hand? So I think it started then, but I did not know this word coaching back in 2009 or 10 to say that, oh, I'm going to be a coach someday. But yes, everything, the people conversations, the skills of helping people realize what emotions they're feeling, all of that, I think really matches to what I do now. So it's such a joy to be able to connect those dots.
Yeah, and it's a psychology, right? It's a psychology of understanding the people. But what I love about coaching, and no doubt you do too, is that inner inside out transformation piece because quite often you'll work with a leader or you'll work with a team or a business and for me the problem's never the problem, right, in terms of well what's actually going on underneath. But I guess it's a question for you to come back to what we're just talking about now is that I can see it a lot more clearly now when there's inner work required, but you can't force someone to do it because I had to do my own inner work to get to where I am now. And I've always had great support around me. And so it is a delicate dance. It's a fine art in terms of the empathy, like you say, and everything else, because that inner work piece is where you can truly shine your brightest. Does that make sense in terms of, yeah.
Yeah, I think 100%. And the thing is, like, what I've started to realize over the last 5 years and then beyond as well, is that you cannot force anyone to change their behavior. And until unless they come up with that awareness on their own, until unless they come up with this realization on their own that something about my life, something about how I'm operating right now needs to change, they'll not change. It's not like Apple forcing you to update your OS just because the last one's redundant, right? Because even with the mindset of that's 50 years ago, you can still operate and be okay in this world. But it's when you have to thrive and when you have to really grow into your highest potential, that's when this challenge starts. And I think what I also say is that there's this famous saying, right, that you can take the horse to the water, but the horse has to drink the water on its own. And that's what I keep hitting a wall into, because until unless people realize that they need to change, and so all we can do, I think, is that build that awareness, create content, create that presence where people feel like, oh, I can be better. And once they do that, then the journey starts to behavior change.
Yeah, totally. And I think that for me is also about being real and authentic. Again, we were talking pre-show, right? And on the external, whether it's social media, whatever it is, there's this almost this facade that
Yeah.
everything's perfect, everything's great. I used to put the mask on as well in terms of like, I was drowning on the inside, but I was great on the outside. And I think we need to be able to be more authentic, more vulnerable, and share that so that people then feel like, oh, it's okay. I can come back to pausing, taking some time to understand, well, what's actually truly going on the inside, to start to then kind of to allow that self-awareness to come through. Because when you've got, you'd like this, and then you're looking at everybody else and you're comparing yourself, it's almost like you're resisting something that actually needs to be that requires attention. Do you agree with that?
It's when we look at someone's life on social media, that's just the highlight reel. What goes behind the scenes, no one knows that. I can say that, oh, I, as a founder, wake up and I have my morning routine, and then I take my cold shower, and then I do this and I do that. And I can say all of those things, but the story at the back end would be very different. I was telling you this morning, right? I woke up at 3:30 because I had a 5:30 a.m. podcast, and I have my meditation and things that I have to do before I get to my laptop, and which is something that I planned for. But going back, it's really hard to show up in your whole self to the world, where the world's celebrating only the success.
I
And
know.
so being vulnerable, showing up and saying that, oh, I'm failing this month, or showing up and saying that my business is only this much right now, these are all hard things, because the outside world starts to perceive then is this person even successful? Is this person who I need support from? And so it's a psychological safety that the world needs to create. And I think we're still far away from that. But what I appreciate is, and the way you and I were connecting over before the show, is that at least in Zoom rooms or in person coffee catch ups, can we be real to each other? And I think if we can start with that, that's progress to me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you're absolutely right that we've got a long way to go, but it's how do we start to reshape or redefine what success looks like so there is more opportunity coming back to being better humans and a better world, what you're doing in service, what I'm doing in service, so that we're starting to create the space to
Yeah,
redefine and reshape what this looks like, because we're so far off it, but yet here we are in this rapidly changing world, so much complexity, so much ambiguity, and AI coming in at a rate of knots, and like there's fear, and you only have to look at what's going on in from a political landscape as well. Something has to change. And so so it's like, how do we start to take one step in front of the other to start to reshape and redefine it so
yeah,
that people feel that they can be able to share more of what's actually really happening on the
correct.
inside, what's actually really going on.
Yeah,
And coming kind of pivoting over to businesses and what you see in businesses and what you see in the leaders and teams, I think we've still got a long way to go there as well in terms of how do we help or how do we support leaders, how do we support businesses to know that it's okay if this month or whatever's happening in the business isn't where you want it to be,
yeah.
but you will get there.
Yeah, I think the primary challenge is that we've become human doings. Instead of human beings, we're just
Yes,
doing all the
love
time.
that.
It's all about
Stealing that off
efficiency.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all yours. And this is a challenge I grappled
Borrowing.
with. I think this was about 2018 or 19. I was given a mentor coach for myself in the work that I was doing. And I still remember it was evening time in India. I was having this conversation with someone, and I said, "Hey, so and so, I'm struggling right now. It seems that I am just doing, 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 whereas the core of me wants to be. And I have no idea how to make that switch." And that person in that moment, who was a very senior leader, I still love and respect him for who he is. He said, "Utkarsh, why are you trying to choose between the two? Why can't you be both?" And that was like the light bulb moment that yes, I can be while I do.
Yeah.
And so that started to like shift really all of this energy, where we need to we need to be productive, we need to be efficient, we need to be doing the right things, but we got to start with being. We got to find pauses, we got to relax, we got to enjoy the moments. This conversation is not about me showing up or you showing up that this is the best podcast in the world, that everyone should be listening to our stories. Not at all. This is first to have joy. This is first to enjoy this moment that we're getting to spend together with each other. And once we start from that space, once this becomes that I'm going to come, show up, be my best self on this podcast because that's what B is expecting, that's it.
I love it. It's so interesting and I'm into being the being and the doing and the interconnection of both because I've been playing with that a little bit myself. I've just completed a 6 month training in self-actualization through the Center of Human Potential in the USA.
Mm,
And part of the training is around the being and the doing, right?
yeah.
And you do need both because the being is your purpose. It's your presence. It's the inner work. It starts there. If it's that whole self, that whole being. But I love that you brought this up because I think there's also then still, we still need to be productive. We still need to perform, but it's rather than just hustle, hustle, perform, 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 do, do, do. How do you have the be and the do coming together? Which for me, I talk about it a lot in terms of your presence, your purpose, and your performance.
Yeah.
And that's more holistic. That's when we're going to get the best out of leaders. We're going to get the best out of the business and the teams
Yeah.
if we think about it that way.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
for me is also part of the shift, right? The shift of reshaping and redefining what success looks like. Because success is whole, it's whole being, it's whole, it's and if you think about a business, I'd love your thoughts on this. It's a living, breathing system as well. It's a living, breathing, whole being body, whatever you want to call it. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And again, success for life, success for business, it would look so different for each one of us. I think 8.5 billion people in the world, we all have our own perceptions of what success looks like. And the challenge is that you don't let anyone else's definition influence you, which is where the inner work's going to help you. How I feel about success is that there are times and phases of our journey, right? It's not a 100-meter sprint that we're on. It's a never-ending marathon. While you're building a business, I can say that IgnitedNeurons has been in existence for 5 years. Does that mean that we should have achieved $10 million? Does that mean that we should have been at $50,000? I don't know, and I don't care because until and unless I don't have joy of building Ignite Neurons, I'm not going to bring my best self to work every single day. And then is it worth it? And so again, success is defined in very skewed terms of how large the company is, how large the revenue is, how large. If it is allowing me, and my definition of success be, and I'm not going to judge anyone for their own definitions. My definition is if this work allows me to impact lives, allows me to bring my honest self to work, to people, to conversations like these, and if it gives me the freedom where I can choose to work in the way I want, choose to be in the way I want, then that to me is success.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah,
That's
it
it.
took me a long time to get to that. Like I've always like for me for a very long time there was all about the material aspect and climbing that ladder, the success, the money that comes with it and everything else. But if I reflect back, it was just so materialistic and I was
Yeah.
so empty on the inside. And it's
Yeah.
only when I went in and did the inner work and I'm like, I'm absolutely like you. I read this great book earlier this year. You've probably read it, The Psychology of Money. Have you read that
Yes.
one?
Yes.
Such a
Absolutely.
great book and everything
Yes, it
that it's
is.
talking about there, you just
Yeah.
go, aha.
Yeah.
Like there's that whole piece around getting rich quick
Yeah.
and like that hidden wealth or whatever it was. It was just
Yeah.
such a game changer for me to think about. But I think the word success, like I mean, let's go back into this kind of old world, new world, right? I'd,
Mhm.
I'd love to get your perspective on we've got a long way to go, but then what are you seeing because I'm sure you're still working, you've got global clients plus local clients. India is a very emerging market
Yeah.
versus Australia in terms of it's a completely different market.
Yeah.
Are you seeing differences in terms of, like where people are at, where businesses are at, and
Yeah.
where, yeah.
100%, 100%. So I've worked in India with startups and I see that there's this zeal in India right now where they're at the cusp of shifting the way the country operates, shifting the way that businesses are done. And so you see in every small team, large team, that they're chasing this growth, they're pursuing this outer metric of success, and beautifully slow. Uh, the US works in very different ways. They are having political and geopolitical shifts in their world, which again are impacting. Australia, on the other hand, is again a very different country because culturally, we as Australians are. I'm someone who has Indian heritage and hopefully will call himself Australian in a few years. But yeah, I'm in the middle of these two
Citizenship.
identities.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome. Good on you.
yeah, and so yeah, Australia works very differently in terms of the culture. There's this idea that life and work will go hand in hand, which I've seen much more from Australia than from US or India. So I think culturally we're all very diverse, and the challenges keep changing. What I keep bringing us back to be is that the outer success, and we were talking about money just a few minutes ago, I think that's super important, because ultimately, until unless we make the money that we need to make sure that things are running operationally, running in terms of the mortgages, the bills we pay, and all of that, it's going to be a challenge for us. But having said that, we need again a balance between what you were saying, materialism and control. We need a balance between being human and doing things. We need a balance between efficiency. We need a balance between being productive and pausing. So I think at the end of every conversation that I'm trying to have with leaders, with coaches, with organizations, is that what's the optimal for you in this moment? And
Mm.
if we can work with that high level of awareness, that optimal for me right now is doing this, that's a great way. One quote that I love from Mahatma Gandhi, he used to say that when I sleep at night, I die, and then I wake up tomorrow morning and I'm born again. To me, just this idea of building life one day at a time and being freaking proud of what you're doing is just what Ignite Your Spark looks like. Because this could be the last time you and I speak. Yes, we want to catch up over a cup of coffee, but what if a tornado hits me right now? Or what if an earthquake comes in Melbourne and splits the city into two? And I don't want these things to happen, but no one controls death, right? No one has seen the future. And so, if this is the last moment that you and I get to be together and have this conversation, can we bring our best to this conversation? To me, if we're able to do that, that's success. And then everything else will take care of its own self.
Could not agree more. I absolutely love it. I always say to people, and I remind myself of this. I've said it forever. Tomorrow's a brand new day. Don't just remember tomorrow's a brand new day. So it's almost like that death,
Yeah,
and you start again tomorrow.
100%.
So no matter how bad today got, tomorrow is a brand new day, and
Correct.
you get to start all over again. And I think that is just such a great reminder for this point in time, and especially in the world we're living in. It's just it's those little one percenters, right, that
Yeah.
are so required that we just seem to forget about, and we're just kind of so fixated or attached on an outcome. Like there's
Mhm.
this, we've always got our attachment, it's our ego, it's all of that. How do we let go of that a little bit more? How do we subtract it
Yeah.
so that it then gives us that ability to be more in the being?
Yeah, I think it's the reptilian brain, right? Which keeps
The amygdala, yes.
yeah, the amygdala keeps hijacking us, and we start to spiral down again and again. And it's a it could be two things, right? There's this one idea and concept that your willpower is like a muscle. Whatever behavior you're trying to change, that's a muscle. So you keep working on it, and the more you work, the better it gets. So that's one. But to me, it also is like a switch on, switch off button. If I choose to today start to take care of my health, if I choose to today live based on a certain set of values, if I choose to today get 1% better, if I choose to today have a better relationship with my money, I can make those things happen. And the only person that's coming in the way of me being that way is me. Just makes life easy. Just makes life easy.
It does make life easy, and it makes life easy, but it sounds so easy, right? But it comes back to how do you, how do you, a lot of people, there's a resistance there. There's this whole fear around it. Like, gosh, if I just let go, or if I, don't have an attachment from A to B, I'm all about the non-linear, like, that we have to go up to here, to here, to here. We'll always get there, but it might just not be the way you expected it. Um, do you find that? Do you face many people that you work with, or, again, back to businesses and leaders and teams, that there is this resistance, there is this fear, but when you actually chunk it down and break it down and get to understand what is this resistance, what is this fear?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think what happens, and I was having this conversation around growth mindset yesterday with a group of leaders, and we were talking about how until unless you create psychological safety in an organization, the behavior change is not going to happen. But this whole idea of growth mindset, saying that I want to become a better version of myself, I'm going to learn through feedback. If someone's criticizing me, I'm not going to get on the defensive, but I'm open to having these conversations. I think businesses need to start to focus on it fully. Because ultimately, in today's world, and we can talk about AI, how it's going to take over the world, whatever change we have seen in the last 100 years and whatever change we're going to see in the next 100 years, the pace is ever increasing. I absolutely agree. But the ones that survive, the ones that thrive, the ones that grow through this change are the ones who are ready to grow. And I think businesses, teams, individuals need to understand, if you put a set of curious leaders who are ready to collaborate with each other in a room, I don't think there's any problem that they cannot solve. And that's
I
how I feel.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. It's that simple. It's only when people's egos, people's emotions, people's this barrier comes in that I'm better than you, that's when the system starts to fail.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Just on that, it's interesting we were talking about this and what you just brought up around this surviving to thriving piece, right?
Yeah.
Like you cannot always be thriving either. Like and so for me it's a real oscillation between the two.
Yeah.
What do you, in terms of your like for your own strategies, but also like, and I know you've got your methodology with Ignite Neurons, but
Yeah.
like, and I've got my own methodology as well, but like in terms of how do you then, it's almost like how do you work with people to pull them out of that when they're operating in that survival mode and get them back up into that thriving mode? And how do
Yeah.
you do it for yourself as well? Because like as a business owner, like we talked, pre-show again, and like it's the economy is up and down at the moment. Like it's not
100%.
easy. Like and like coaching quite often, whether coaching consulting, it's sometimes it's like, oh, that's something we don't need to worry about right now, versus actually you do need it, versus like a well-being, a tokenistic well-being program or whatever.
Correct. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think the first thing that and it's a broad question, but I think it all starts with building awareness. That can we build the awareness within leaders that this is what is challenging us right now. This idea between surviving and thriving, you don't want to push so much that you reach to a stage of burning out, you reach to a stage of where it all does not make sense. So I think the one practice that has helped me be is that create intentional pauses in your day. Sometimes we are not intentional about the pauses. Sometimes we are all, and I personally go through that too, where I used to have two screens in front of me first, where I thought like having two screens and the laptop will make me productive. But I realized that this is not helping at all.
No,
And so
I've
I'm
got
now back
one.
to one screen,
Yeah.
and I keep a second screen when I'm doing some Excels or something that needs two screens for just pulling data in or something like that. So just be intentional how you create more pauses in your day, how you have time for free play. I typically tend to find time for like a 30-minute run if the Melbourne weather allows in the afternoon, because that, and without music, without podcast, because what I've seen is that even when we are at the gym, even when we're going for a walk, we want to make it productive. Let me learn this podcast today so that I'll get some new ideas. But sometimes you don't need anything, because the universe is going to put something in your mind when you create the space,
I
and
agree.
that space will come through intentional pauses.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And you've just tapped on that active recovery piece for me, like the micro active recovery. Like I know even after this show, I've been going since like 7 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
I've got in my diary, I'm going to take my little 19-month-old puppy for
Yeah.
a big walk because
Amazing.
he hasn't played in the park this morning
Yeah.
and he needs to do that. And
Yeah.
I need to honor that and let him have his little time.
100%.
But it also gives me a chance just to unplug from my morning to come
Yeah.
back and then, have the rest of my day. And I find that really such a simple, basic thing to do. But then when you go into businesses and you talk to the leaders and the teams and you look at their schedule, it's like, I can't have a break. I can't do that. I could never do that. My day is full of meetings, but it's like you're just adding layer upon layer upon
Yeah.
layer.
Yeah.
And this is all about subtracting to get to like let the insights come in, the fresh perspectives come in.
Yeah.
You feel more refreshed when you
Correct.
have that 30-minute run, or that what I'm about to do with Marley Bob, take him for his
Yeah.
little walkies.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And it's what sometimes works with leaders is to do a show and tell with them. For example, when I was teaching and speaking about growth mindset yesterday, I bring up a couple of case studies from Microsoft, from Netflix, that make them feel like, oh, bigger organizations are doing this, so we should too.
Yeah.
For leaders, I think there's a story about the LinkedIn CEO. He used to block 2 hours on his calendar every single day for me time, think time, focus time, deep thinking. And I mean, being the CEO of LinkedIn has to be a busier job than what I am doing right now. And I hope that's the case. But even if he can find 2 hours in his day to just focus on strategic slash deep thinking time, who am I to complain that, oh, I don't have the time? So I think it's the leaders, they need to see that bigger leaders in the world, or leaders who we label as great leaders, they are also doing these things. And so let me just practice. Let me just be open to the idea of doing this, and let's see what happens in maybe 21 days for the sake of it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of testing and learning and just
Yeah.
continuously iterating, iterate. When you booked in for the pod, and I have that question around what's one unique insight or experience in life, leadership, or business. And by the way, I love your infinity loop around personal and professional, because I'm all about the life, the leadership, and the business, like
Yeah.
life. Do you know what I mean? So I love that. But you said the better human you become, the better will be your outcomes in the world. Work on yourself first.
Yeah. Um, Seems like a no-brainer to me, because if I'm not a good human being, till how long can I act to be a good leader? Till how long can I act to be a good partner? Till how long can I act to be a good father? And this word, authenticity, or being your authentic self, has been misused, abused, and overused. And I think it's time that we all create those intentional pauses to really understand who we are, and then show up to the world unapologetically so, because that's what we deserve for ourselves. And then the rest of the world and rest of the profits, the rest of everything else will take care of it once we show up like that to the world.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And you've actually tapped into something then, because I'd love your view on this, because I think also, and it comes back to this success piece as well, but like inner work, and do the work on yourself first. It can take as long as it needs to take. And, like I crashed and burned a few years ago now, in when I had my, severe burnout.
Mm,
And I think I resisted doing the inner work for probably a good 6 to 8 months after it. I was just fighting it. I was just like, no, I'm just going to keep looking for external things to solve it, when actually all it was screaming out for me to do was go within.
yeah,
And for so long, I also was battling with, this is taking too long. Like, this is not where I'm meant to be. This is
yeah,
like, I should be this by this now, and the conclusion, what I've really just profoundly come to in the last probably 6 months or so, is it takes as long as it needs to take.
it does.
And and then once you've done more of the inner work, the outer world will start to follow. But until you've done that, really dug into the deep inner that you need to do, you can't expect anything to go as, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and I don't think we talk about that enough either. Like, there's this expectation, or it's like, fix this and it'll fix that. But it's like, every person is different. Every person is different.
100%. And if my wishes, or what I aspire for myself or the business, were to hold any value, then I would have been at 1 million followers right now. I would have been making $100 million a year right now, and things like that, right? But that's not the case. So the question then is, the amount of work that we are putting in and the amount of learning that we are going through on a day on day basis, is that something that justifies for who I am and who I want to be? If the answer to that is yes, then at least you're progressing in the right direction. The day you feel that, if I were to die today and this is not giving me any joy, that's the day when you got to change your career, go into a 9 to 5 job, go into entrepreneurship, whatever that looks like for you. But don't let anyone else influence it, which is going to be really hard.
Yeah, it's so hard.
So hard.
Would that be your last piece of advice? Like, in terms of what would be your piece of advice for anyone who is almost at a crossroads, where they're like, I'm stuck in the human doing. I'm I'm just like, I'm here. I don't know how to get into the being. What would be your one piece of advice for somebody that is in that situation right now?
Take a deep breath. You're not that important,
Oh, I love it.
and figure it out. Figure it out.
It's so good. It's so good. It's like just calling it out. It's like,
That's it.
you're not that important.
You're
Like, just,
not. You're not. Yeah, none of this is important. I mean, yeah, that's it. I don't want to speak more words to dilute the impact.
yeah. Amazing. How do we find out more about Ignite Neurons and your business and of course about you?
Absolutely. So find me on LinkedIn. Be smart. She's going to have all the links in the show notes. But find me on LinkedIn. Connect with me. I look at all the messages that still come. I'm at about 22,000 followers. So love that space. And then I have a small little podcast as well, where we're having conversations that change the world and change the mindset. So yeah, look forward to staying in touch in whatever way is possible.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Utkarsh. It's
you.
been a pleasure having you. Enjoy.
Same here.
Hopefully, you get to go for a run this afternoon. I'm gonna most. I can hear someone out there with his squeaky toy.
I can hear some rain outside. So I don't think so, but let's see. Awesome. You have a great rest of the day as well. Go for a walk.
Thank you. You too.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.